Hello everybody, welcome back to Not Your Mother's Kitchen. Tonight we're going to do the ultimate backyard brisket. We have here in front of us, we have a USDA prime brisket we bought at Costco the other day. Let's get started with trimming it up. Now, when you're trimming a brisket, there are 100 videos out there showing you how to trim a brisket, and I, by no means, am a professional at doing this. But, like everything else in barbecue, talking about trimming brisket is a 3-hour fist fight. So this is the way I trim the brisket, and I'm going to show you my way. I don't trim it to a competition style. We just trim up the excess fat, get it nice and looking good, aerodynamic, and then we go on. Let me get some gloves on so we can get this brisket out of here. As with everything when you're cooking with trimming a brisket, you need clean hand, dirty hand. So this is the one we're going to pull the brisket out with. Use your knife a lot to help you with this. Kind of get everything out of here. This is the fat side of the brisket. We're going to trim this up a little bit. If you can notice right here, you'll notice, excuse me, you'll notice there's a little bit of fat right here. We're going to try to get this down to 1/4 of an inch. With this, you need a really sharp knife. I like to use these boning knives. Got this off of Amazon for 10 bucks. It works real well, and it needs to be sharp. Also, your brisket needs to be cold. Make sure that your brisket's cold. We just pulled this out of the refrigerator about 5 minutes ago, so let's get started. So we're gonna take this down. Now, if you get a little meat showing here and there, that's okay. You just don't want a whole lot of meat showing. We're going to go ahead. This is the point. Because this is a prime, there's going to be a lot of intermuscular fat here. We're going to go ahead, and if I take it down just a little too far, and a little less than 1/4 inch, that's fine. Right here is take that down. Now, I like to leave a little extra fat on my flat here, which is this part of the brisket. Flats are lean. I think the fat kind of helps keep moisture in, helps protect that so it doesn't get overdone. That's just my opinion. Again, there's guys out there on YouTube that have channels that are world champion barbecuers. Harry Sue is one that comes to mind. You guys watch T-Roy Cooks. He does it a little different than I do. But everybody has their own way of doing it. So this is my way of doing it. And you can trim as much. You can spend all night trimming this thing. Not that you need to, but again, this is backyard brisket. This is not competition brisket. So we're not going to worry a whole heck of a lot about taking too much of this off. Let me get this off right here. That's about all I'm going to do on that side. We're going to turn this over. We're going to take a look here. Now, let me get rid of some of this fat. There is some fat you're going to have to take off that will not render down, and that fat is right here. This, and let me get over here on this side. This is hard. It's hard, very hard fat. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to cut that out. You can see that's just a big chunk of fat. And you don't have to get it all out, but you want to get the majority of this out, because this stuff will not render down. It's hard. It just doesn't taste good. You got some fat here that we need to get rid of. And then you've got some sinew right here. We are going to, or silver skin they like to call it, we're going to go ahead and trim some of that up. And again, you can spend as much time or as little time on this as you want. And I'm not going to spend too much time. Like I said, we're not doing competition. We're doing a competition style, but we're not in a competition. So get rid of this. And besides, you pay a lot of money for this. I think this brisket was $5.49 a pound. So, you know, you want to keep as much of this as you can. This is not as cheap as it used to be. I can remember buying these back in the early 2000s for about 99 cents a pound. But not anymore. All right. So right here, you can see we've got a little oxidation on this right here, right on that. And I want to take that off, and there's a lip right here. So we want to take that off. So we're just going to go down here, and we're just going to very carefully pull this off. Now, this meat is still good, just not very appetizing when it cooks. It's just not going to look right. It's going to taste fine. It's just not going to look right. And, you know, if you've got some friends that you're bringing over, you probably don't want to serve it to them. So you can keep this meat, and you can use that meat for burgers. Put it in a bag, throw it in the freezer. When you get enough of it built up, then you can grind it and put it in burgers. Use it for beans if you want to use beans, whatever you want. We're just going to go ahead and throw it, because we've got, when I was in Kansas, before we moved back here to Texas, I bought a calf with my neighbor. We went in halves on it and fed it out for a year, and we have plenty of meat in the freezer. So you notice right here, there's some more oxidation. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to trim that off also. You can see, so we want to make this as aerodynamic. It'll help with the cooking as you possibly can. Now, we're good. That's all the more I'm going to trim up. There's a couple more things I want to do, but as far as the fat and the sides, this is all I'm going to do. So right now, you'll notice, flip this over and turn it around so the camera can see you. you'll notice how thin this is right here. This is going to burn, and it's not going to taste well. So best bet is just to get rid of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to cut around here. And I'm going to take that off so it gets a little thicker. Just like that. Now, you can see that gives us a little thicker meat here. It won't burn up. If you'd have well left that on there, and you very well can, it's not a big deal. Just know that you're going to be cutting that chunk off, and you're going to be getting rid of it, because it's just not any good after you smoke it for 12 or 14 hours, whatever the time is we're going to smoke on this. So I want to take the points off here, some sharp corners. I want to round this up a little bit. And so on this one right here, the last thing we're going to do before we start seasoning is I'm just going to take this corner off. I'm going to try to take the point corner off. And you can see, because that will burn also. It's just not good eats. Just not good to eat. All right. So we have our brisket trimmed. And now we're going to get ready to season. So let me get this glove off and let me get the seasonings over here. The seasonings we're going to be using today are seasonings that I really enjoy using. We're going to be using some kosmosq sitting right here. And another thing we're going to do to make it a competition style is we're going to be injecting it also with kosmosq Reserve Blend brisket injection. So let me get this blender over here. Move some of this out of the way. And so what we're going to do is 1/3 of a cup of the injection, and then we're going to add 2 cups of distilled water. And I've got my distilled water over here in my measuring cup. And we're going to add 2 cups. This is room temperature distilled water. If you guys have never tried their products here, oh, they're good. They're good. He's got a YouTube video also where he does different recipes. He's a world champion steak cook-off and a world champion barbecuer. So he's developed these. They are really good. I encourage you to give them a try. We're going to put the lid on this and we're going to give it a pulse. All right, we're mixed. Now, one of the things that you need to do after you've mixed it in a blender is we are going to have to let that set for a second. So here's what we're going to be injecting with. So we're going to let this set, let the foam kind of dissipate, and then we'll be right back when we're ready to inject. As you can see, we've transferred our injection into another bowl. You can see the foam has dissipated a little bit. There's some on top. That's okay. We're going to go ahead and inject this brisket. This is what we're going to use to inject. Just go ahead and stick it in there. We're going to fill our syringe full. Now, what we're going to do when we inject is we're going to go in 1 inch in a grid pattern, 1 inch at a time. So, and you can tell right there. Now, when you inject this, you want to go on a 1-inch grid pattern. And if some of this leaks out, that's okay. Just take your time. Don't panic. If something starts leaking, that's okay. You can tell right here, I've got some that leaked out. That's okay. Let me get my mess here cleaned up a little bit. And then we'll get the seasonings on. Now normally if we've got time, I like to inject this the day before you cook it. And then pull this out of the oven, or out of the refrigerator, excuse me, and season it at that time. But we're trying to have this for lunch tomorrow. So I do not have time to season it and put it back in the refrigerator. So we're just gonna go with what we have. All right, now for the rubs. Cow cover, Dirty Bird Hot, Texas beef. Those are the 3 rubs we're going to do. We're going to layer flavors. So let's start out. Cow cover. We're going to do both the front and the back of this. We're going to go with a pretty good coat. This is a big piece of meat. It can take a whole lot of get a glove on so I can flip this thing over. So we're going to put some more on here. Get it all on all sides. Let me get another paper towel here and get that cleaned up. So I don't get it all over my floor. And we season some more. All right. Cow cover's done for this side. Right now, then we're going to go back and we're going to put some Dirty Bird Hot on here. This stuff's got a little heat to it. Not too much. If you've got somebody in a family that doesn't like heat, they're not going to really notice it much. It just gives a little something on the back of the tongue when it's done. All right, now what I like to do is let this set just for a minute or two. We've got some moisture that has leaked out from when we injected this, and that moisture is going to cause this stuff to tack up along with the salt that's in the rub. It's also going to pull some moisture out, and it's going to tack up and get wet, and that's what we're kind of waiting for. And you can see it's kind of doing it right now. So the last thing we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and put some Texas beef on here. These products, now full disclosure, kosmosq didn't send me these. I bought these on my own. I've used their products before. I really like their products. Another set of products you might want to try, Meat Church. They've got good products. If you've got your own rub, hey, use your own. Use your own. You don't have to use what I'm using. This is just what I like to use. I've got some other rubs up here in the cabinet, and I use those too. They're good. We're going to flip this over. We're going to go back with a cow cover, and we're going to do the whole process over again on this one. But we're not going to get the sides this time because we've already got the sides. So this brisket, you'll notice when you're messing with it, it's gotten a little heavier because of the liquid we put in there. And that means this liquid's in there, and it's going to stay. Cow cover. Now we'll go back with some Dirty Bird Hot. And again, we'll let this set for a couple minutes. When this thing tacks up, we'll be right back. All right, so we've let this tack up for a couple minutes. You can see it's kind of got some moisture drawn out of it. We're going to go ahead and put this Texas beef on here. So we'll go ahead and get that opened up, and we'll start putting this on. And you may be wondering what's in this Texas beef. It's basically salt, pepper, sugar, some good seasoning. You could actually just use this on your brisket. You may think that I'm putting a pretty heavy coat on, but you got to remember this is 14 pounds of meat. Actually, it was 14 and a half pounds when I bought it. I probably trimmed a couple pounds off of it. And we're just going to let this tack up here a little bit. And then we're going to go out and put it on the grill. So we'll be back here in just a minute and take it out to the grill and put it on there. All right, so we're out here at the Camp Chef Smoke Pro. We've got our temperature set for 225 degrees. We're going to throw this brisket on. Now I'm going to cook this brisket today, fat side down. We want to make sure that we get this thing set the way, because however it sits in here is the way it's going to cook. All right, we're going to let this go for about 2 to 3 hours before you ever come back out here again. We're going to come back out and we'll baste it with kosmosq brisket mop, and we're going to be doing that off camera. I'll baste it probably at about 3 hours, and then again probably another hour after that. Then I'll go catch some sleep, get up about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, baste it again, and then we'll check temperature at that time. If it's in that area, we'll go ahead and wrap it, and we'll get it ready so that, and if we can wrap it, then we'll go ahead and put some brisket mop into the foil that we wrap it on, and then that will help speed the cooking up so it'll be done in the morning when we get up. We'll let this thing rest at that time. But we'll be back tomorrow morning with the brisket. Let you see what it looks like. Good morning. We've been up for a couple hours now. It's about 9 o'clock. We have been nursing this brisket along all night. It's been doing really good. We took the kosmosq brisket mop. We mixed half a bottle of brisket mop with 1 cup of water, And we've been mopping it periodically over the night. Now we're going to check it and we're going to temp it. At this time, we're going to decide whether we're going to wrap it or whether we're going to let it go. So let's get looking at it. It looks pretty good, and you can see I mopped it a little bit ago. That really tastes good. So let's go ahead and temp it. And for temping it, I'm going to use an instant read thermometer. It's still a little tough. It is temping at 176 degrees, 175, 76 degrees. We're going to check at another place. It's temping at 167 right here. At 183 on the point. So we have to decide now whether we're going to wrap it or whether we're going to let it go. I think we're going to let this go. We're shooting for about a 12 to 14 hour cook. We've got lots of time left. This thing is temping good. It's pushed through the stall, so we're just going to keep mopping it and we're going to just let it go unwrap, and we'll be back when it's done. All right, we're back now. We pulled the brisket off. It temped on the flat at 203 degrees. The point, it temped at 210 degrees. We're going to let this rest for about an hour. Actually, if you can let it rest for a couple hours, that would be great. We're going to tint it with some foil, put it in the oven, and just let it set there for an hour, and then we'll come back and slice it. So we'll be right back. All right, so we've got our brisket has rested for an hour. We are going to slice it here in a minute, but before we do that, let's recap. First thing we did is we've got a USDA prime brisket. It was 14.5 pounds. We trimmed it up. We probably took about 2 pounds of fat and trimmings off of it. We then injected it with kosmosq reserve brisket blend injection. Then we seasoned it with cow cover and Dirty Bird hot, and then topped that off with Texas beef. We then put it on a smoker, which a campchefsmokepro set at 225 degrees. We let that smoke all night. It got up this morning around 8 o'clock. We checked it. We took a temperature. It had just come out of the stall. We then went ahead and increased the temperature to 250 degrees because of time constraints and what we've got to do today. We wanted to hurry it up. Then we basted it with kosmosq brisket mop several times during the night and during this morning, and we let it cook until it was done. We had an internal temperature on the point, on the point here at 210 degrees. On the flat, we hit 203 degrees. Then we tinted it with foil, put it in the oven, and just let it rest in a cold oven. So, without further ado, let's get in and slice this thing up and see how it tastes. So, we're going to glove up. We're going to give our knife a quick run over the steel. Now, the way I'm going to slice this today is I'm just going to slice it straight down the middle here, and we'll take a look at it and see what it looks like. There we go. Pretty juicy. You can see. This is the point end. Very juicy. Let's give this thing a couple slices and see what we can give it a taste. You can see this is a fat seam right here. That's why that's falling apart. That fat has rendered. If we want, we can actually take that off. That'll be a nice little bite. We're going to cut these in about 1/4 inch slices. And you can see even pulling it off at 203 degrees That's still hot as all get out. It's a little overdone, but that's okay. This is a backyard brisket. Yes, you can see it's overdone. It does bend, but you can see it's kind of separating right there. Very little tug to pull that apart. But that's okay, it's a backyard brisket. That's got a good flavor to it. The kosmosq rub, you can taste the rub, you can taste the dirty bird hot, a little heat on the back of the tongue, and you can taste the injection that we put in here. It's really good. But let's get somebody in here to try it that didn't cook it and is a good brisket eater. We're here, we're gonna got with me today, Jet. He's my favorite oldest grandson. And he's going to try the brisket also. But before we do that, we want to cut into this point, and we want to see what that looks like. So right here, that we didn't do, but we will do it now. And there's the point. Juice running out of it. Very good. So let's cut a piece off this point. And we cut a little bigger pieces off the point. It is definitely overdone. I'm not going to call it a complete fail because it does taste outstanding. But, hold on, buddy. There you go. So we're going to let him taste it and see what he thinks. Go ahead.
Good.
Good? All right. So there you got it. Peanut Gallery says it's good, so it's got to be good. So again, try this at home. We overcooked this. That happens. You know, things happen. And don't get discouraged. I think if I'd have pulled this off at about 5, I let the flat get to 203. I probably should have pulled it off at 198 and let it rest. And then we would have been perfect on that, I believe. So we'll try it again. We'll do another one. But till next time, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified when we upload new videos all the time. And also, if you want to, leave me a comment below. How do you cook brisket? How do you like to cook it? What temperatures do you pull it off on? Do you cook it till it's done? Do you cook it till it's just underdone and then as it rests, it finishes up? Let me know. Maybe we'll try your recipe sometime. So y'all take care. Love you. Catch you next time.